Okay, Mr. Walsh, first of all, we're about to go live here. Well, yes, Mr. Walsh, we are already streaming right now. I'm just letting you know that in case people who are excited to speak to you and ask questions for a very quick session today might show up. We're live now. Not yet. We've got 5 people already showing up, excited to talk to you about George Washington. I'm going to send you right now to your email. Here it is. Is your email still askman28@gmail? Got it. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just sent you the YouTube leaked tweet. And I'll do a quick tweet. Okay. Thanks for all those out there who are being patient with us. We are currently tweeting so everybody knows that we're going to do 10 minutes of George Washington questions. Okay. All right, there we go. So let's see what's going on over here on YouTube. Okay, did the tweet, and we've got some people coming in the lobby right now. And I guess while people are coming in, for those of you who are in the lobby early, thank you for coming. Don Capsalon, you're also banned, so please stop. But I'm sorry, Brendon, but I don't want to mess with it. I had a guy come over here for $5 grand yesterday. He's in a full-on mask here, fixing up shit, so. How's the sound over there for you guys? Can y'all hear? Brendon, can you count to 10? I don't think your audio is coming through. Hang on.
55, 56, 57, 58, 59.
Okay.
60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We already switched over to live video, which should be coming up. There's a little bit of delay right now, but hopefully the live video will be coming up soon, and we will begin our wonderful conversation with questions regarding George Washington. Okay, let's get a move on here, gang. We only have now about 6 minutes. First of all, I want to...
You can't do 10 starting now?
Okay, well, let's call it 8. Gang, first of all, I just want to make a big apology to you, the fans of the George Washington question with Brendon Walsh. I am honored that he's letting me host him on my YouTube channel. I am not very familiar with working audio equipment, and so the last, I guess you could call it, release that we did, the sound was too low on Brendon's end. So I'm very sorry, Mr. Walsh, Brendon, my friend. And I had
What's
someone.
done is done. Are you sure that the audio is working now?
Too much vodka. Too much vodka. Yes, your audio is fine, and uh, so we are ready now to start asking questions. But first, I wanted to share with you a song that I made as an apology to you. I call it "Ode to George Washington." I worked on it for probably, I don't know, all last night. I have not slept, and I've been on 2 different amphetamine drugs.
Well, that's, I've told you to get help for that. It's not my problem.
So here it is. We're just going to play "Ode to Washington," and maybe this will spawn some conversation. But here we go. And your audio will probably go dead.
Respectful question.
George Washington, 'twas you who freed the slaves. You're shot down in a theater and brought around in a train. And when this pandemic's over, I'll visit your grave and kneel down beside it, and this I will pray. Hear me, O Father, let Fenris run free. Release from Valhalla a swarm of Valkyries, and send them down to where Booth runs free, thinking he's safe in the depths of Hades. Rip off his face and shit down his throat. Throw his body in a urine-filled moat and tap dance upon his nipples for a while. Then sew him back together and do it again.
So that was "Ode to Washington."
If you can hear me, let's
I can hear
move
you.
on to the questions.
That was "Ode to Washington."
Well, I think my the sound was messed up on my end because it sounded like shit in my headphones.
Well, looks like a lot of people liked it.
I have another, and if any kids are out there, can you hear me?
A lot of people really liked the song.
If there are any kids out there, I have this puppet today, and he's also the puppet who, if you ask inappropriate questions, he will do the ban. He bans you.
Okay, let's get into
So watch your step. Don't be disrespectful. This is Officer Futner, and I'm saying right now, do not be disrespectful or try to be funny during this broadcast. Thank you.
Okay, here's our first question. What was George Washington's stance on prostitution?
Okay, this is starting off in kind of a sounds like this is already being a little disrespectful. Do I have to go over the rules again?
Sure. We have 5 minutes left, but if you want to do your rules, then I guess.
Well, listen, no sex jokes and no drug humor, and be respectful.
George Washington, 'twas you who freed the slaves. You're shot down in a theater and brought around in a train.
Hey, sorry about that. I had a tech glitch. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm not answering any questions about George Washington and prostitutes. He was in the army. Prostitution was legal. He was a young man. So let's leave it at that.
Okay. Let's leave it at that.
And maybe, and you know what? Since you were trying to be funny, maybe a 10-day ban.
For who?
Whoever asked that question.
Okay, let's go. Keep moving. What was George Washington's favorite animal?
George Washington's favorite. He bred dogs. He was also an equestrian. He liked horses. Um, he loved a lot of animals. He liked animals a lot. I don't know if he had a particular foal, but he enjoyed fox hunting. He had a pack of hounds that he used for that purpose.
What theater was President Washington shot down in?
He was not shot in a theater.
Yes, he was. That's what my
That's a
whole
different
song is
president.
about.
That's a
Listen again.
George Washington, 'twas you who freed the slaves. You're shot down in a theater and brought around in a train. And when this pandemic's over, I'll visit your grave and kneel down.
It's only a matter of time before I get the real police involved, and I have spoken to a friend of mine who is a cop, and he said that asking inappropriate questions on a live YouTube feed where anybody could be watching it, even kids, that you can get in trouble for indecency laws. So maybe everybody watch themselves before I get Officer Buck Fuddy here. We'll have a real officer of the law. And you know what? The theater question that's trying to be funny, 30-day ban.
Sorry about that. You're banned for 30 days by Brendon Walsh, who's not
If there are any
doing
kids
very
here,
good.
I have that puppet too.
Okay, here's a question. Was George Washington a complete asshole to his friends who spent hours working on music and technological stuff so that they could do their stupid ass
I'm not
question and
listening
answer
to the rest of
session?
that question. That's who asked that? Who asked that
Smart
question?
Man IQ 200 was the
Let
screen
me see
name.
it.
I can't find it now. Too many people are asking questions.
Well, then why don't you ask me one of those questions?
I just asked you a question. Oh, look, here's one from somebody else that they want to know: did George Washington stab his friends in the back and
No.
ignore his friends' beautiful music that they worked all night when they were on two different styles of amphetamine?
What's that question in reference to? Let me see that. I don't think these are real questions being asked. I think you're interjecting your own personal bullshit into this.
No, I'm not.
Pardon my French.
I'm just reading the
Into
questions.
this George Washington Q&A.
I think they're great questions. I would wonder that too about George
no,
Washington.
George Washington didn't stab his friends in the back.
I wonder if
Okay, what do you want to know about him?
here's another question from smartest lady in the world. Did George Washington take for granted the fact that his friends were doing everything they can to make his internet work right and his audio work right and making music for him sometimes? Did he take them for granted, or did he thank them profusely and not abuse them verbally and with blackmail threats?
Are we going to do a Q&A, or is this going to be whatever nonsense you're trying to turn this into? I didn't ask you to write any songs. It's not my fault that the audio was messed up at our last Q&A. People still enjoyed it. They just had trouble hearing my answers, which is kind of the most important part of the Q&A.
Okay, here's a
Hey.
great question from Scott S. Did George Washington have a sense of humor?
Of course he did. Do you want me to elaborate?
Sure. What's an example of one funny thing George Washington ever did?
I mean, having a sense of humor and doing something funny are two different things, really.
I don't think so. I've never once heard of George Washington being funny. I've never once
Okay.
heard of people saying that George Washington was even that interesting. Most people don't care about George Washington anymore, is pretty much what I've heard.
He said, George Washington was famously quoted as saying, he actually wrote this to a fellow Virginian, Colonel Theodore Theodoric Bland that it is assuredly better to go laughing than crying through the rough journey of life.
That's not funny at all.
Well, but that says his view on life, that he'd rather be laughing than crying.
It's not even funny. It's nothing. And anyone could say anything like that. It's not even that interesting.
He was described in September of 1783 as having a pleasant smile and a sparkling vivacity of wit and humor. And humor was especially useful in time of war, which George Washington saw, and he took up command in the Continental Army. And they were not naturally
You're reading off the
merciful
screen.
times. No, I'm not.
I'm done with this.
He did
honestly.
use humor to put himself and others at ease. He used humor to put himself and others at ease during wartime.
We should get a real
which
expert.
I did too when I served in the military.
You didn't serve in the military.
His jesting is documented in
George Washington, 'twas you who freed the slaves. You're shot down in a theater and brought around in a train. And when this pandemic's over, I'll visit your grave and kneel down beside it, and this I will pray. Hear me, O Father, let Fenris run free. Release from Valhalla a swarm of Valkyries, and send them down to where Booth runs free, thinking he's safe in the depths of Hades. Rip off his face and shit down his throat. Throw his body in a urine-filled moat, and tap dance upon his nipples for a while, then sew him back together and do it again. George Washington, 'twas you who freed the
I
slave.
can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
I couldn't get my song to stop.
Can you hear me, or are you ignoring me? Please answer me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, last question. Did George Washington bake his own...
Don't play that song. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did George Washington bake
don't
his...
play that song again.
I will not. I can't help it. Did George... A lot of people are requesting it, so I just played it.
Well, it's taking up a lot of time. Like,
Okay, last question. Last question.
You played that song.
Last question. Did George Washington like
Washington.
Did George Washington like sourdough bread?
I mean, George Washington liked a lot of different foods.
Okay, well,
sourdough
we're gonna
bread in
wrap it up.
particular.
Thank you so much. That was Brendon
Can I
Walsh,
answer the question?
George Washington expert. George Washington liked a lot of different foods. Tune in
can I
again
answer the
for
question?
great answers to Brendon Walsh. Tune in again. We'll do this again. There'll be someone else doing it.
And when this pandemic's over, I'll visit your grave and kneel down beside
I can
it,
give the-
and this I will
I
pray.
have the recipe
Hear
from
me, O
for George
Father,
Washington
let
bread.
Fenris run free. Release from
3/4 of a cup of
Valhalla
milk,
a swarm of
1/4 cup of
Valkyries,
sugar,
and send
1
them down
teaspoon of
to
salt,
where Booth runs free.
packaged dry
He's safe in the
1
depths of
compressed
Hades.
2
Rip off
tablespoons of
his
warm water,
face and shit
2
down his
1/4
throat.
cups of
Throw his
flour,
body